Welcome to the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants podcast. I am your host, Heidy De La Cruz, and I am on the mission to change the narrative of immigration, one immigrant story at a time. There we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the American Dream in the Eyes of Immigrants. My name is Heidy. I am your host, and I am on the mission to change the narrative of immigration, one immigrant story at a time. Today, I have a very special guest. I want you to introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, what you do, and then we'll get right into how your childhood was growing up for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Heidi. I am Munira Zahabi, Dr. Munira Zahabi. I just got my PhD. But I live in Chicago. I am known as the niche navigator, and I am, an entrepreneur, an author, a mentor, a coach, and a public speaker. I have a podcast of my own that's called Munira's Musings. And I also help entrepreneurs take the next step into entrepreneurship without standing on the sidelines. Just jump into the lake with us.
Amazing. Congratulations on getting your PhD. That's an amazing accomplishment. And wow, you do a lot. So I would love to, at the end of the episode, we'll go get into all of that, how you got into your business and your book and podcast. I would love to speak to that. But let's get started with how it was growing up for you.
So I was born and raised in Kenya. I was born a native of Nairobi. And every time somebody wins from my country, wins the Olympics or the marathon, I feel my heart swells up in pride. Aww. So that's where I come from. But I haven't lived in the country, although I have a lot of pride in it, because at 15 I got married. But I had my childhood. Had a wonderful childhood. Grew up with a lot of people around me. It was a plethora of different cultures, different foods, different ethnicities, and figuring out who you were in all of this mix. I went to school, spoke the language, and just blossomed in that. So once I finished my high school, I was married, and then I went to Tanzania, which is the neighboring country. And although they are Swahili speakers there, the culture is a lot different. Where in Kenya, there's a lot of ethnicity where there's a lot of tribes, and each tribe has their own language, their own culture, their own customs, and, everything. Tanzania on the coast everything is Muslim. Very, very highly Muslim, and Swahili is very pure there compared to the one that spoke the same language, but it's spoken with a different dialect, with a different accent. Some words are so different. So when you come into Tanzania, you feel, well, where did I show up here? And did I do blunders? Oh, yes, I made enough blunders of my own. And one day I'll tell you all about it. But the fact of the matter was that even though the countries are in East Africa, there's a culture shock, right?
Yeah, I bet.
So growing up, I don't know if it is like that for your country and neighboring countries around you, but it was to me, and I couldn't fathom, because English was a primary language in Kenya. It wasn't in Tanzania.
Okay.
English was taught as a subject in Tanzania. But then eventually Kenya went to a Swahili medium as well, because everything now is in Swahili and you have to speak the language to pass it. So there was a lot of things growing up where we thought was normal, right? I grew up with one Voice of Kenya channel. And it started at 5:00 in the evening and it finished at 11. And I was my parents' remote control, because you had the antenna up on the roof, and if it didn't work, then you had to go and play with the TV
and fix it,
and fix it so that the waves weren't there and the picture would be clear. So I was my father's and remote control. And sometimes you just sometimes have to just stand there and hold something or hold the wire. They could watch it and you couldn't.
Oh my God. That's funny.
So we grew up watching the $6 Million Man, Charlie's Angels,
Okay.
BoJack, all those programs. And I still love these programs because I grew up watching them. But we had to have a proper time. These were, we had to know what happened on Wednesday, what happened on Tuesday, how you were going to finish your homework so you could watch the 8 o'clock show, 8 to 9 show, and then go to bed because next day was a school night. So you had to know the TV schedule by heart. And that's how we grew up, right? There was no channel. When I went to Tanzania, there was no TV. There was nothing there. It was a social, it was a community, it was a very, it was at the time a communist country. And there was a lot of, everything was the same. Everybody had to have the same. So where I grew up in Kenya, where there were supermarkets full of stuff, when I went to Tanzania, there was nothing. Now it's a different story now, presently. But at that time in the 80s, it was a different story. I had never stood in line for bread. And so when I went to Tanzania, I had to stand in line. They had to add me as another person who was going to receive another piece of bread because I was an added person in the household.
Oh, wow.
If people found out that there was flour being sold at a certain store, people lined up for hours just to get 2 kilos of flour. So different, very different, but it was home and we grew up, right? It was a lifestyle that we had to embrace.
Okay. So moving from Kenya to Tanzania, that was because you got married?
Yes, I did get married. My husband was from there.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. And how long were you in Tanzania before moving to the United States?
Oh, I lived there 15 years.
15 years?
At the age of 30, I came to the United States.
Wow. Okay. So how was that? What was, if you can talk about it, what was the events that led you guys move to the United States 15 years later?
So there was a program, and there's still a program by DV1 that was introduced in the United States by Clinton, right? President Clinton. And what he did was he asked all of the people to come and apply. It was a process. You had to apply, you had to show assets. So there was specific instructions at the time. Now everything is online, but specific instructions. You had to have a certain piece of paper, plain white paper, where you had to put your names in a place. If you can't print it properly, then you had to have it typed. And there were just specific directions, and you just put that in an envelope and you mailed it to Pennsylvania in Ohio. And I did that for my husband and myself because the kids were too young. And every year this DV1 program came out, and it would be an ad in the program in the newspaper on a Sunday. And I never knew about it. Well, I used to work as a teacher over there, and the administrator told me that she was using the school typewriter to fill out this. Then I told her that I had a typewriter, and she goes, "Here, is there all this information? Type this for me. Here's the paper. Type this for me and bring it." So I said, "Give me 5 more pieces of paper in case I mess up." She gave me a whole ream. And she said, and I said, "I'm going to do mine too, and you're going to mail mine." And she goes, "Okay." And I think I sat up till about 2 o'clock in the morning typing because I wasn't good at the clackety typewriter I had.
Yeah.
And, none of those 17 people but my name came out. I mean, it's a lottery system, and I got the letter. And I sat there looking at the paperwork, and I said, "Do I go or do I stay?"
Yeah.
And I somebody said, oh, nobody's going to, you also need a support system here in the United States. Somebody to, if you don't have enough money, right, you have to show enough proof, but you have to show that there's somebody here to hold your hand in this country as well. And so people were like, you have 4 kids, nobody's going to sponsor you, nobody's going to do anything. Why would you, want to go from here? And I said, I think I want to go because back there, we're just making ends meet. And because we were paying for school and, there was a lot of issues with electricity and water and, you had, it was rationed, you would get electricity at night. So I just sat there and I said, let's see what's the other side of the grass, right? We'll see what's on the other side. And let's fill it out. We'll see what happens. And so that started another process of us getting to sending more paperwork in. They needed more documentation. They needed to see that we would be okay, sustained by ourselves and not somebody else. We wouldn't be a burden on the state. So all of those things came into play. And one thing led to another, and it was an excruciating 14 months. When 14 months, like every step of the way, there was no email at the time. There was only letters, but it was a waiting game. Would we get the visa? Would we go to the next step until we get this letter saying, okay, now you have to complete your all of your health checkups.
Yep.
So you have physicals to be done. They send you to physicians. You go through all of that stuff, and then you send everything back, and then again there's waiting, right? So every step of the way, there was tension, there was excruciating pain, and then it's like, what do we do? Are we gonna get it? Are we gonna go? Are we not gonna go? If we get it, are we gonna go? Are we not gonna go? So, and then, once we got it, like the day of the interview, we got a paper saying that this is the day of your interview, go and do this. You have to go to the embassy, you have to be but before that, you have to pay money, right? Even for the interview. Now, if you miss the interview or you don't get the visa, then you don't go in, right? Like you're out. So your money is wasted, basically. So then it's like a question of, should you try it even? What if you're not going to get it? But that time I didn't know it at that time, but I had made it my mission that I was going to go to America. That was it. I don't know why I was going to go. I don't know what I was going to do there, but I was going to go. I'm going to go. My husband was very adamant. He said he didn't want to go. He wanted to stay there. And I said, you can stay here. I'm taking the kids and I'm going.
Oh, man.
I don't know what I was going to do, but all right.
You were determined.
Right. So this was in 1993, 94, right? And my son was only 3 years old. I was I think, I don't even have the words, but in my head, I had made it very clear that I was going to go. One thing I knew, I spoke good English because of my education in Kenya. I was a teacher back home, so I could come and teach here in the United States.
Yeah.
And what else could I do? I don't know, but prayers, right? You always keep God in your prayers. I say, am I going to go? Please let me go. I want to go. I don't want to think it in my head that I don't want to go. I'm going to go. So the day of the interview came, we had to pay the money. We had to pay the money a week in advance, go to the embassy, pay the money, come back. They give you a date. Then you go back. And on the day of the interview, there was like 9 families. Now, in my head, I was thinking that you're going to go to the interview, you're sitting on a desk and, you're going to have a conversation with this very high-ranking officer. It's not like it. It's like going to a post office and buying your stamp, right?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Walk up to the desk. You're in a waiting room, same kind of thing. If you go to a post office right now, you will not have a bench to sit on. It's like think of it like going to a DMV office, right? You have a bench, you sit there, and then you get a number, and you just sit there, and then they call your number, and you go there. And there were 7 families there, total of the 7 family, like 7 couples were there, and they rejected all of them. And we were number 7.
Ooh.
They rejected everybody. Everybody left there crying. And I was like, what is going to happen to us? This guy is on a
Yeah.
mood. He's on a fritz. There is no sitting down at a table. There is no like having a conversation like you see in the movies, nothing like that. So I go up to the table and he goes, who sponsored you? Whose tax returns are these? And I said, this gentleman from church. And he goes, do you know him? I said, I've met him once, very briefly. And he goes, where? And we had a religious convention in Mombasa, which is a town in Kenya. And we'd gone there and I'd met this guy for about 20 minutes. And he said he would sponsor me on paper, but he wasn't going to help me physically when I was there, or no way I could ask him for any help or anything. That meant advice as well. So I said, I met him briefly, and he goes, you don't know this man from Adam, and he just gives you his tax returns. Do you know what this paper is? This paper is very highly confidential paperwork for his business. And at that time, I knew nothing about this tax return, but it looked very important because he had sent it to me by fax. So then he said, so what are you going to do? If I grant you visa, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm a teacher here. I can be teaching over there. And he goes, you need to go back to school for that. And I said, I don't have a problem learning. And he goes, okay. Then he asked my husband, he goes, if you go to America, it's going to be because of your wife. And my husband said, okay. He goes, what are you going to do? And he said, I'm a watch repairer, because my husband was a jeweler and a watch repairer. And he goes, I don't know if there's a demand in that. Maybe you'll have to change your line of work. But I don't see any problem here. And he hit approved right there and then. And he goes, if this guy from America gives you his tax return, and if God is telling you you should go, then we should go, and he hit approved. Now, I don't know if I was the 7th person and he said, I've rejected 6, I need to let this one go. Or maybe God put something in his heart, I don't know. But he approved us. And I just looked at him and I started crying. And he goes, ma'am, you don't have to cry. You're going to America. Just go. Make a difference in people's lives over there.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I would have cried too. Like, that's so, because you're seeing these families before you getting rejected, but then, God's grace, and you get approved right then and there. Wow.
And that was it. Then I came home and I told my grandma, my aunts, and I said, I'm going to America. And they were like, oh shit, she got it, because now they knew they was going to go, right? And so now what do you do? Now you have you have 6 months to leave.
They gave you 6 months to leave? Okay.
So you have to do whatever, you have to wind up, whatever. So you have to do all that. You have 6 months to leave. So what are you going to do? So we had a house we had to sell. We had a business we had to sell. We had to take care of our family members that we took care of. I mean, literally, that was a lot of work. But things started falling into place, right? Coming to America was no joke. I mean, that decision. But I had seen, so one thing that I've seen in people, that they keep one foot in one door, like they keep one foot in America, one foot in the city, in wherever country they come from. They have assets there. Now, if you're rich, it's okay to have assets in another country. But if you are struggling and you are just that one family that has, that needs to make a decision, I would ask all of the listeners to think and say, you know what? Listen, are we going? Are we not going? There is no gray area. So you need to write on after I came to America, there were other people who also got the visa. They would write to me, and I gave them the same advice to other people. And I said, write on a piece of paper, split it in half, and write on a piece of paper the pros and cons. going and versus not going. Because if you are an individual who is not married and 30 years old, then you have more chances in America to make it. Now, I don't know what make it means to anybody. It's a different version of the story for everybody. But if you are a family with kids and you want to think, I'm going to come here, then write it on a piece of paper, do your research, and make your decision based off that. When I came to America, I didn't come for me. I came for my kids. I knew the opportunities here would be vast. Now, I'm not saying that people in Africa don't go to schools, but things were different 30 years ago, very different. So opportunities looked better on this side of the pond. Now, if you ask young ladies to get married to a guy from United States, they'll think twice because opportunities there are even more. So colleges, there's a lot of international schools out there, there's a lot of things out there that people can tap into. But now, have to really sit down and think about what is it exactly you're coming for. And at that time, I was coming for my kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate you giving that advice to the listeners because as I started this podcast, obviously it's like, it's for my target audiences here in the United States. But as I kept going, I realized there's a lot of people from different countries listening. So now it's like over 90 countries. So that's a beautiful advice for anyone who may be listening outside of the United States, who may be thinking of coming to really think about it. Like do your pros and cons list. And if you're going to be if you're going to decide to move to the United States, like be full 100%, move instead of back and forth. Yeah.
It doesn't help if you have to keep going back and forth. If you're rich, if you have lots and lots of money, do that. But if you are struggling in your country and you're thinking, oh, I'm going to make it. How am I going to make it? America it's a land of opportunity. It is what I call home. I've lived here longer than I've lived in Kenya or Tanzania. So this is home for me. But you can't forget your roots. You can't forget where you came from. However, this is a country that's going to help you grow. There are so many opportunities in this country that people don't realize that, which other countries don't offer. Now, I'm not saying that America is the best country. I'm saying that America is better than wherever you're coming from. Because if you're thinking of coming here as an immigrant, if you're thinking of coming here, then you need to know that you're making that step because something is lacking in your life.
Yep, exactly. What kind of teacher were you back home?
I was a primary school teacher. I was I taught second graders, but I did a lot of other teachings. I had classes I would teach fifth graders, fourth graders, third graders, and I taught English primarily and math.
Math. Okay. Well, my heart goes out to you because I know teaching is not easy. And so when you guys arrived to the United States, you became a teacher here or what did you end up doing?
No, I came to United States and for 2 years I was a teacher's aide. And I was just trying to figure out how to take my teaching career. But what I noticed is that in my country, in Kenya, in Tanzania, teachers have the right. Where we came from, the teachers were the next to your next to God and your parents. Teachers were, they were on the same pedestal, right? Whatever your teacher said had to be taken with a grain of salt. Here in this country, teachers are not valued, and parents and kids, because they make fun of them or they don't give them enough respect. And I couldn't take that. I couldn't do that. But opportunities came to me in the sense that I got into healthcare. I became a pharmacy technician and, just started working in different healthcare. But the teaching aspect has never left me because as a mentor and a coach, I used that foundation, which I had built for kids, to use the same thing I do now.
Awesome. And what about your husband? What did he end up doing when you guys moved?
He was a jeweler when he came. So he, he was a watch repairer. At that time, we didn't have the smartwatches. So people still had battery watches that didn't work. And it was, now we are, I think right now, everything goes in cyclical values. So at that time, it wasn't that abundance. There was not a lot of abundance. Now people have a lot of money. Everybody is in abundance. So at that time, people would come. And then he was also a jeweler. So he was given, it was really nice because somebody introduced him to a jeweler. And the next day, the jeweler called him and said, "We have a table for you. Come and situate yourself here." So we had brought his tools and he started working. I mean, the second day that we had arrived, and so that was very, very thankful. But it just seems that, everything fell into place and God was looking out for us. And he said, okay, he's going to take care of us. Now, I'm not saying that being a teacher was the most prestigious thing. My husband also contributed to a lot of things into the family, but like the second day of arriving here, he had a place, even though he didn't have a client, and he would change a battery for $5 at the time. Yeah. Still it would be something that, the fact that there was money coming in, and even if it was trickling in drop by drop.
Yeah. So you guys arrived. I know you live now in Chicago. Did you guys move to Chicago right away, or where did you guys arrive first?
Oh, I came to Los Angeles. Our first port of entry was Los Angeles. Okay. And we moved to Bakersfield in California.
And did you guys know anybody here when you guys moved, or how was it when you guys first arrived, like getting situated with like housing and school and all of that? Did anybody help you guys?
So the church that had helped us, we belong to an organization. There's 2 million of us in the world. And so this was a small community that was growing. And they wanted people to come and, visit, live there, because it was a very small congregation. They were asking people to come here. So they were the ones who asked us to come, and, they were the ones who helped us. So no, I didn't know anybody, but we forged friendships. This was a whole small community, about 9 families who were ready to help. So we lived in the church premises for a month. Then they helped us sign in for an apartment. We lived in an apartment. But it wasn't easy because, advice is not free. People don't just give advice. And then they ask you, you'll figure it out on your own. And it took me a while to figure it out, because we had to figure out, I had different kids in different age groups. So we had to figure out the schools, the high school, the middle school, all of that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So we had to be in an area that had good schools and everything. But in that way, we moved 5 times before we found a place of our own, and then were able to go to situate. But in that time, my 3 kids, my youngest 3, were not able to go to one school. So even if you're coming here, you want to do your homework about schools, Best time to come here is about summer. So you can then do your due diligence or do work. But if you're coming from another country and you can't do that, do your homework. Which area to live in which city, which big city.
Yeah, that is very, very important. That is very true. I love that you guys had that church community to be able to help you guys, because, I can't imagine just, moving to a new country, not knowing anybody, and then trying to navigate and figure everything out on your own. Good thing that you guys already had spoken English.
It's easier now because you do a lot of things online. You can find housing.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Oh yeah, it's very easy now. So things have changed drastically. We are now in the information and AI age, so it's so easy to do that. But, do your homework. If you think I'm just going to go figure it out from over there, it's going to take, you need to do your homework. That's all.
Yeah, definitely. I want to hear cultural shocks that you experience, whether in Tanzania, whether in the United States. I'm very fascinated by that. Hi, Heidi here. Thank you so much for listening and supporting my podcast, but most importantly, the mission. If you would like to further support this podcast, there are a few ways you can do that. You can sign up for the newsletter. You'll receive the episodes straight to your inbox every time they drop. The link is in the show notes and the show description. You can subscribe to the podcast YouTube channel. And lastly, you can donate money. That link is also in the show notes and show description. If you would like to sponsor an episode or promote your business on this show, send me an email at Heidi@HeidiDeLaCruz.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the episode.
So when we came to America, when we first came to America, we had a connecting flight to Bakersfield. There was the only one flight that was going to leave at 4:00 and going to Bakersfield. Now, the people who helped us to get there, we were asking them questions. They should have told us that there is a bus that goes to Bakersfield every 2 hours, and we could have been on a bus. But they didn't. They neglected. So, again, information is key, right? So they didn't tell us that. And we took a connecting flight, which was expensive, to go from Los Angeles to Bakersfield. Now, our immigration process took a little longer, so the flight left. Now, what do we do? So when we got after getting all of this paperwork, and they 6 of us, right? And we take all this paperwork, all of our hand luggages and all of this, we take that, we start moving, we realize the flight has left. So we go to the desk and we say, now what do we do? And the lady was like, the flight has left. And my husband was very cranky, very cranky. He was tired. Yeah. It had been 27 hours since we had left home.
Wow.
And so, and of course, there's no cell phones or nothing, right? So what do we do now? So we go there, we stand there, the lady tells us to wait, we wait for a while. The kids are hungry. And you come from another country, the first thing you don't want to do is spend money.
Of course,
first
yeah.
thing you do is you tax conversion. So then there was one guy at the airport, he was like, you know what, I'm just going to give you vouchers. These are Burger King vouchers, and I'm going to let you go. And just go feed your kids. And he gave us a stack of them. Like, I think if you buy one with the other one free or something, I don't even realize this was 30 years ago. And then one of the other guys, you need to give them a room. So he gave us a hotel room on the hotel in the airport, because they don't know where they're going to go. What are they going to do? And it was easier then. People were more nicer, I think. So we got the hotel. We slept there. We were very tired. And we had to empty the room at 12:00. They told us we could stay till 12. But now the flight, we had 4 hours. So everybody was hungry. What are we doing? We didn't have any food with us. So snacks are big. Yes. Go bring a snack. Always bring water with you. We didn't know any of that stuff. And so then we go, the hotel had given us breakfast, but they only allowed 2 people to eat. Now there was 6. And the waiter said to us, there's 6 people eating. And I said, okay, so what do we do? You'll have to pay for the 4. And I said, okay. So the manager saw that and he goes, don't worry about it, I'll comp it. I didn't know what comp meant. Right? But the waiter he was like, I don't understand. They came from another country. Don't they know the rules of this country? They should just go back wherever. So, everybody came from somewhere in this country. This country wouldn't be what it is now if other people from other worlds wouldn't have come. So I don't understand what the problem was, number one. Number two, about 10 o'clock we had breakfast. We went and packed our stuff. We came out of the hotel room. Then about 2 o'clock, the kids were hungry again, right? So we went to Burger King, and we saw on the billboard very nice burgers, right? So we pointed and we said, that's the one we want. Everybody picked whatever they want. But when they gave it to us, it looked like a wrap, whatever, right? So I opened one and I looked at that and I went up and told the manager, I said, this doesn't look like that. He goes, how long have you been in America? And I said, we arrived yesterday. And he goes, okay. I said, just bring me all the. He goes, would you like to keep what you have? And I didn't know what that meant. He goes, just keep what you have.
Yeah.
He came out with burgers on a plate, freshly made, and he fed us. So we kept what
Wow.
he had given us first, but this time he didn't wrap them and just gave them to us. So that was a culture shock because you didn't
Yeah.
realize that everything was, done. Things in America don't seem what they are. First culture
Oh
shock.
my God. That is so true. Especially like in the commercials, they make them look nice and juicy, but then when you, it's like, this is not what you
But that
put
guy
in the
was,
commercial. Yeah.
I remember his name. I don't know his last name, but he was so wonderful. He said, you know what, I'll just keep what you have. Don't open it. You can keep
Aw.
it another time. And the kids were happy because at that time, the whole thing around Disney's thing was the Lion King.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is where we come from, right? Tanzania. The Lion King
Yeah.
was shot, it was inspired by Tanzania. So like, oh, and everybody wanted Pumbaa and Timon and everything. We had never watched the movie yet, but they wanted the toys. And he even gave us a lot of toys. He goes, here, just, you know.
Aw.
To me was like, wow, people are just so nice. Compared to the waiter in the morning,
Yeah.
wow, it's so different, so different. And I said, there humanity still lives.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
got on a
man.
plane, we went to Bakersfield, so those, that was my first, within 24 hours, culture shock right there.
But yeah, within 24 hours right away. That's funny. I know that you had access to Western TV shows and things like that back home. So before you came to the United States, did you have like any expectations of the United States, or did you just come with like, it is what it is?
So I had seen TV shows when I was 15. And then
Mhm.
coming to Tanzania, there was no TV. I told you that.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
things had changed, right? Things had changed. Now, did I have any expectations? I don't know if I can. I don't remember that I had any
Mm.
expectations, but what I had to do in my head was I'm going to make it. Now, how I'm going to make it,
Mm.
I don't know, but I'm going to make it.
Okay.
So opportunities were everywhere. There was opportunities everywhere. But who gave you that chance?
Yeah.
Because it's that one person who gives you that chance that boosts your whole mindset. So the thing is, there's opportunities everywhere, but what are you willing to do? When I was coming to America, I had two uncles. One was in Pakistan and one was in Spain, my father's brothers. And I had specifically wrote to them and asked them about me coming to America. Now,
Mm.
mind you, this was a letter that goes out and comes back in a month when they send me a reply, if they send me one. But I did get their letters. And in that 14 months of excruciating waiting, I was asking myself, should I go? Should I not go? My uncle in Pakistan, he told me, he goes, you have a very wonderful lifestyle. We had house servants, although we
Mm.
had some, nothing was smooth, but there was, you have a life, you have family there, you don't want to leave that. My uncle in Spain, who left home on a ship when he was 15, and because everybody was asking him to marry people, how it is, they're always hooking you up in back home. So he got mad, he left, he got himself on a ship, and he decided he was just going to trek the world. He went, I don't know where, and then he ended up in Europe and finally met my aunt in a village in Spain and got married there. So his letter to me was, if you are willing to scrub the toilet and don't feel that you are doing a menial job, then go for it.
Wow.
And I took his advice. So when we came here, we had a physician who worked at a hospital from the church, and he said, you need to start volunteering. We didn't know how
Mm.
to run a cash register or pick up the phones or anything. So he was a pediatrician, and he he asked me to just volunteer. So every Wednesday I would take a bus and go volunteer from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And this was at the end of town, right? And I would just do that. But there I learned how to be good customer service, calling patients for their appointments, taking weight, when patients came in, just acknowledging them. Now, California is very Hispanic oriented, a lot of Hispanics, so Spanish was a good, this thing, but they did not want to let us to speak in English, but English was a good thing because I was able to converse with people. So, so all of those skills came. Then on Thursdays, the gift shop in the hospital needed help. So my friend and I would go to the gift shop and ring people up. We didn't know how to use a cash register, and they taught us how to do this, right? So the volunteering experience also helps because you need to go volunteer and figure out what you want to do there and learn, because these are all skills that's going to come in handy,
Yeah.
And you can put that on your resume that you did voluntary service. You can do whatever as a volunteer, but just be a volunteer, and that helps.
Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah. So, man, you such a fascinating story. I love this. So you guys come starting to get settled, you're volunteering. So I want to get into your business. You mentioned a long list of things that you do, and it sounds all amazing. So I wanted to know, like, how did you get into your business? How did that come about?
My business started here in Chicago about, I want to say, officially started 9 years ago. But I had been inspiring people all my life. As I come into America, inspire people to take the next step into America. What do you do here? How do you do this? I've seen other people who are, who have very many, who are very highly educated than me. Like they have the engineering, they are IT specialists, and they don't have a problem, right? They just come in, they take care of things, and they are done. But there are other people who come for the kids who are not educated, and they just take a job in the gas station and everything else. And I inspire them. So, and I went into healthcare for my job, and I worked at a hospital in Bakersfield for 10 years. Then I got my master's degree, and I thought I could take on the world. So I went and worked for corporate America. So I went there and did a lot of things there, worked with very high prestigious companies. But in all of this, I always found people who are not motivated to do things. And in my life, I always was taught that if they can do something better than you, or if they know they have a knowledge of, say, for example, baking a cake. If they can bake it, why can't you? Right? That was the thing that I wanted to learn. So I went up into corporate ladders. I climbed those. But what really happened was, my business actually started I had helped people along the way when I saw these unmotivated people. But one fine day, I get an email on a Sunday evening that we had to be on a call at 7 a.m. in the morning. And that was, that's like 7 a.m. in the morning. Nobody starts work at that time. So we got on the call, and all three regional managers, which one of them was me, were laid off right there and then. Our position was no more. And that was it. No other thing, none other thing. So then there was, your position has been eliminated. You will have to return your laptops, and that's it. And just like that, this beautiful job that we had strived to and may help this company go forth and conquered all of these hospitals that I worked with, it is no more.
Yeah.
So then the idea came about entrepreneurship, because I started applying for jobs and I wasn't being very successful. And jobs are not easy to come by. And I had a master's degree. I could take on the world, but why
Yeah.
couldn't I get a job that would get me, where I wanted to go? Well, my husband kept telling me that I needed to, look into entrepreneurship. But what was I going to teach?
Yeah.
What was I going to teach? Yeah, I didn't know that. So you start looking at coaches, you start looking at different things, instead of looking at a different thing. And I realized that I liked empowering people. I liked empowering, especially women who feel like they're in a dead-end job or dead-end relationship, and they don't have the guts to take this to the next level.
Yeah.
Well, everybody has the guts. You have it, but you haven't found it yet. It's there. And I went through my own challenges in life, right? I have a lot of challenges in life too. But now I look at it and say, this was just a learning curve. And one thing I've realized is that helping people get what they want allows me to have a lot of satisfaction in my life.
Oh,
So that's
yeah.
why I started my own business, and I'm the niche navigator for a reason, because I know you have a purpose in your life. I know that. And what is your purpose? I don't know, but I help uncover it. There's so many people that I have helped because they have the skills, but they don't discount them completely. And they don't even know they have the skills. But when I start asking you questions, and it's really, the questions are to help you start looking inward into yourself, not outward, inward.
Yep.
You realize, you know what, my God, this woman has so much potential. And I think I am blessed. I am very blessed with the fact that I look at people and I see their potential. And it's so sad that they don't see it themselves. But hey, if I can help you find your potential, that's all I need.
Yeah.
So
You
that's
have
where
that
my
gift.
business. Yes. So thank God for that. And that's where I started my business. So officially my business is 9 years old, but I've been doing this all my life.
All your life. Oh, I love that. I love that you are able to help people, even though you've been doing it all your life, but like now you're able to help people and you get that satisfaction of, helping them see their potential, helping them grow. That's so beautiful. And so what is your podcast about? What is the name of your podcast?
My podcast is Munira's Musings. If you can see behind me, it says Munira's Musings. I bring in entrepreneurs who in their eyes have made it, and talk to them about their journey to their niche. What is your niche about? Why did you start your niche? Why do you do what you do? Because it's a gift. Your niche is your gift. And why is it that you do what you do? And what do you do to help others get? And lots of them are coaches, lots of them have businesses, and they tell us how they started. Some people just, it was a fluke, it was this. And the people's stories about starting their own business is amazing.
Yes, it
Ideas
is.
and how to conceptualize these ideas, to create them and to bring them into life.
Yeah, I love that. And how can people get connected with you if they want to see more of what you do, if they want to hire you, or if they want to listen to your podcast?
So they can reach me at the Niche Navigator. I am on all social medias, not X. I'm not on X, but I am on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And, my podcast is on YouTube or anywhere you find your podcast. So I'm on Munira's Musings. Take a look. I wrote my fourth book right now is the podcasting, the podcasting purpose. And this looks at both, looks at two ways of how a podcast guest and a podcasting host can take care of each other. And it can be such a wonderful collaboration instead of just being a host, right? You want to take care of the host. You also want to take care of the guest, and how two parties can help commingle and create a wonderful episode for each other. So that was what that book was about.
I am going to get that book. Definitely. Yep. I'm definitely going to get that book. Very inspirational. And where can they find the book?
It's on Amazon right now. It's a Kindle version, so you can get it. And, people say, I don't have a Kindle. You have your phone. You can get the app and just, if you have Amazon Prime or Amazon account, then you can just get the book and read it from there. It's easy read. It takes about 2.5 hours to read it, but you want to just devour that information because that is something that everybody needs to know. And, I think of it as being a commingled collaboration because we as podcasters need hosts like you, and you as hosts need guests like me. Yeah. So it's a co-mingling. And how do you take care of each other?
Perfect. That's amazing. And thank you so much. I want to wrap this up with one last question. Normally, I ask my guests, what does the American dream mean to you? But I feel like how you had mentioned earlier that you came not for yourself, but you came for your kids, and your kids, I'm going to assume they're now grown. I want to know if it was worth it for you to come.
Every penny of it. Every penny, every tear, every heartache, everything, because this country is home. It's where I put my head on and this thing. I never think of going back. I haven't gone back. I went once, 8 years ago for my niece's wedding, and I looked around and I said, I'm not missing much. I like the fruits. I love the food. I like the culture. But to live there, I wouldn't miss much. So to visit, it's okay. Yes, my kids are very successful. They're doing very well. There is struggle in their life, yes, but it's not the struggle that I had to go through. So yes, it was, every penny was worth it.
Oh, amen. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing, for being so honest, so open, and just thank you again so much. I'm really glad we were able to get connected, and I definitely hope we can stay connected. I'm definitely going to be, follow you on socials. But yeah, and I'm definitely going to, get your book, but thank you. Thank you again for sharing your heart, your journey with the audience. And yeah, just thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. This has been wonderful. I have been on many podcasts, but this subject is completely different. So I had to pour my heart out. It's completely different, but thank you. It was a pleasure and an honor to be here.